then as we feel the shoulder blades slide down the back, reach your fingertips into the ground and see if you can feel the shoulder blades stay really low, but then kind of spread out a little bit on the back. Nice wide T across the collarbones. Now let's take a little bit of a step out. So we're a little bit outside the shoulders, soft knees. Let's go ahead and do our big pelvis circles where we're trying to keep the spine pretty long and neutral. And just move the pelvis in a circle around the feet so you really feel the weight distribution changing. Circling the hip sockets on top of the thigh bones. And reverse that back the other way. Now as we get into movement for the lumbar, if you need to be careful about side bending in your lumbar, just come back to these pelvic circles because we're getting just some subtle movement for the lumbar, a little bit more gentle. But if you're cool to do the side bending, let's bring our feet back in right underneath us. Take a second to feel your whole footprint on the floor. Definitely keeping both heels on the ground. We'll bend one knee, and if we don't pick up the heel, that means this side of the pelvis has to drop down, right? While this side stays up high on the straight leg. And then push to two straight legs, and then the other one bends and drops. So yeah, use your hands, at first at least, on the shelf of your pelvis, and you might feel like you're pushing down on the one side of the pelvis and pulling way up on the other. And if you can see your image in the computer, look for your head to really float perfectly still, right? So head is just hovering, whole upper body is hovering, and it's just this movement of the pelvis. Now feel how this means that the tailbone is wagging from side to side, right? To let that hip really drop. And you can just start to switch from one side to the other instead of passing through the straight leg position. Yeah, the knees just pass each other on their way to switching. Yeah, with the tailbone wagging from side to side, feel how that's a little bit of a side bend for the lumbar. So do a few more where you're just tuned into whatever sensation you can kind of pick up coming from your lumbar spine. Great, okay. And then two soft knees. Now let's just take the head and the neck from side to side. So we're playing with how the lumbar and the neck are mapped together and they talk to each other. So let's start by just feeling out where you feel the stretch, where you feel the stop, if you feel any pinches or pulls. Yeah, okay, now let's look at what part of the neck is moving. Let's put our fingertips at the very base of the neck, tops of the shoulders, and see if you can feel like you're doing side to side movement at the very base of the neck. So you might feel like you're keeping your neck pretty straight and just leaning that whole line over from the collarbone base. Great, okay, and then slide your fingertips up so they're halfway up your neck in between kind of your earlobe and the collarbone where we just were. Now, can you kind of push in with the fingertips on one side as you go in that direction? So we're suggesting to the neck that it bends at the exact middle. Notice if that's easier to do in one direction than the other. Good, okay, and then you might take one hand and cup the back of the neck to feel like the neck actually isn't gonna move, it's gonna stay tall and vertical. Let's put the other fingertip on the nose and just do our little swivel around the nose staying in place. So this is getting the skull moving at the very top of the spine. Good, and then keep that awareness because this is a movement that we might sometimes miss. Be sure we're keeping this very specific movement. You can let go and then add in the whole rest of the neck moving. Middle part all the way down to the collarbone part. Yeah, take your time. See if you can feel all 7 of those neck vertebrae getting that side to side movement. One more each way. Great, and then come up nice and tall, and having mobilized the neck, let's come back to the pelvis and let's come back to heels staying grounded, alternating knee bend. How much can one side of the pelvis drop while the other one gets hitched way up? And again, just feel that as movement in the lumbar and notice if it feels any different than when we were here before. Yeah, just a couple more each way. Biggest tail wag we can comfortably do without the head moving around. Great, all right.